So can I just ask? Sorry, did you send us a link of the recording? Because
Yes, I should have sent you the link. Did it not come through?
I didn't get one last week. No.
Mark, I will send you that link.
Don't worry, that's fine.
Ben will send you the link this week because he'll have a link.
Just as we started recording, it's like basically Rupert's admission. I sent the link to everyone I said I was going to send the link to. Unfortunately, Mark, you were on Rupert's list.
Sorry, Rupert.
Also, Mark, as well, I put it on our club's Facebook page, so you can access it there as well.
Yeah, don't do Facebook, sorry.
We'll send you a link, Mark. We'll send you a link.
Then. Right. So, slice. Backhand slice.
Ooh.
You want to kick off?
Sorry, Rupert.
Do you want to kick us off, or?
Oh, sorry, I missed that bit.
I'm just doing it now.
Right, so backhand slice, very effective on an AstroTurf court that we use. Obviously, I think we know the benefits. It stays low, it skids through, it's an awkward shot. Slice is also sort of very versatile as well. Often asked the question, like sort of groups or individuals, is slice attacking, rallying, or defending? I deliberately asked that question because it's a bit loaded to sort of get people to sort of maybe pick one or the other. But the reality is slice can be all of them. We can defend with slice, we can attack with slice, we can rally with slice. So it is sort of versatile. And often, if people haven't had sort of coaching, generally sort of speaking from experience, most people, if they haven't had any coaching, will slice a backhand. It's one learned through sort of a bit of feel and understanding, sort of playing around with. And generally, you can muddle your way to a certain point where you can do sort of enough with it to sort of play the game. Well, we'll sort of quickly sort of cover sort of some of like the key points. We'll cover like the main sort of generic slice, or we'll call like the rally slice, but all the skills generally sort of span off from this sort of a point anyway. So it's like the foundations. So with the slice, so again, we've got our forehand grip, whether we're a two-hander with our left hand on the grip already. One hand, as Rupert might have mentioned, we could be on the throat or we could be here, either or with the one-handed. That's just personal preference. First move, again, we change the chopper grip straight away. So with a two-hander, if we've already got the grip, like we could be preparing to play a two-handed topspin shot or flat shot and then realise it's actually slice. And if the moment we realise we're playing slice, our left hand comes up to the throat of the racket, because that just gives us a little bit more of a better reference of where the racket head is. So it just gives us a bit more understanding. If we know we're slicing straight away, we get our hand on the throat. Now you sort of notice sort of straight away the chopper grip on this one, I've got the racket face up to the sky. And what I'm doing is sort of again, sort of turning and sort of creating like a lever with my arm. So I'm looking over my shoulder, and essentially the butt cap is facing, so if I'm hitting towards you guys, we'll be going to the side. So it's not here with the butt cap pointing towards you, it's turned, so it's sort of facing away this way.
So it's running down the baseline.
Correct, yeah, so parallel to the baseline. So from this position here, like where sort of some people go wrong is if the grip's wrong, we'll discuss sort of like some of the common things we see wrong with the grip and the effects from the grip. And the other thing, sometimes we see people like just almost coming too much with a bent arm, and what they're trying to do is create it with this action here, so almost with the elbow, or too much with the wrist. A good sort of slice is sort of come from that sort of smooth flowing effect. Sort of think like Federer's slice backhand is probably one of the best slice backhands ever. And it sort of comes with this long sort of smooth action sort of coming through as he sort of plays the shot. The left hand then sort of comes back because that sort of anchors our body as we're doing it. And we sort of keep a lot more sort of sideways on. It's not about sort of rotation with the slice. So it's by keeping it here, holding our sort of swing through as we come under. And like in terms of like the finish, one of the things I look for, which is a sign of someone who's tried to use their wrist too much, is the racket head will finish this side of the hand when I finish. So when I'm here, you can see even if it's slightly forwards, it's still a little bit this way. When I see this sort of thing here, because I've tried to do too much with the wrist. Alternatively, if I'm in the wrong grip, I can use my wrist and then sort of do this, and it's on that side of my wrist again. In a chopper grip, you can try it from there. You can't really get your racket past that point. Without a chopper grip, I can. So,
Right.
and that sort of encourages sort of bad habits in terms of how it sort of comes on. The slice is sort of low to high. So again, you can see when I'm here, you can see how the racket, my sort of hands up by my sort of shoulder, obviously varies a little bit with the height of the ball coming in. If it's a very low one, I'd be a bit lower. Or like an average rally height, waist height ball, I'd be here, the racket sort of behind my head, and the string's sort of up and sort of coming through that sort of low to high, so high to low sort of string through, coming through. And you can see the space that's sort of created through at the end. With the sort of rally one, in terms of like speed of the actual action, it's quite a unified speed all the way through, just flowing through like a steady, smooth swing, which allows that repeatability, that again and again and again. What you're not wanting to do is try and hack it, like accelerate through or accelerate at the wrong point where you're sort of losing your body control. And by sort of getting that, it then sort of allows it to start being sort of repeating, coming through. We'll let sort of Rupert sort of jump on, sort of add a bit more, and then I'll sort of add a little bit more after Rupert around those sort of points I started with.
Yeah, I mean, I think two of the main things I see where people go wrong is, firstly, locking the wrist is so important. So like Ben was saying, on the finish, releasing the wrist and allowing the racket head to come across. So Ben, if you get side on again, so if you show us. Hang on, got some food coming now. Blimey. Got the works. I'll get back to you in a second. Right, so back to where we were. Ben is side on. Napkin and everything. On the finish, the racket head stays this side of his wrist, as we were saying. Now, what you might find, if you watched one of us hitting a slice, quite an aggressive slice, what you might see is because of the racket head speed we've got, we actually end up rotating through slightly more than the way we would teach it, which is that. But what you can see there when Ben does that, if you watch his racket on the finish, the angle is still there in the wrist. Does that make sense? And that's the main thing to remember. So yes, we want to rotate less. Like I said to you guys with the one-handed backhand, the main difference between a one-handed backhand and a slice together in one group compared to forehand and a two-handed backhand is, with a one-handed backhand and a slice, there's so much less rotation on the way forwards. It's about rotating on the way back. But even if you do rotate slightly on the way through, just because of the racket head speed, the momentum you've created, the main thing, like Ben said, if he just shows us one more time, is that angle in the wrist, he's keeping that angle. So the racket head is staying control. So he's locking the wrist all the way through. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
We never, ever, ever, ever release the wrist, even on the very finish. Don't release that wrist. As soon as you do that, you lose all control. You'll lose your spin. You'll lose control of direction. And probably control of height as well. So yeah, it's such a small detail, but it's probably the most important part of a slice, really, and it's probably the thing where people go wrong the most often. Second thing I was going to add was there's a massive sort of misconception, I think, with people. I mean, you just put it out there at the moment. What do you think the angle of the racket should be on contact for a good slice? Any ideas? So Ben, if you show us your rackets, if you show us sort of like, obviously you show us a 45-degree angle, if you do it from the side, so if you stand side on so we can see your contact point, there you go. So obviously that's 45, and then if we said, so that's 45, if he shows us fully straight to the court, so facing the net, that's obviously, let's call that 0, and then if he shows us like a 90-degree sort of open angle, pointing up to the sky, any ideas on where it should be?
60?
60. I'm trying to work out what 60 is, Mike. You've got me thinking.
Right, that's
Yeah, no, wrong. Any ideas? Any other ideas? I'll shoot.
Out of those three, 45, presumably.
45, yeah, I thought.
Absolutely not. So that's the mistake most people make. So they think the racket face has to be that open. The way I'll try and make you realise that is, if you think of a forehand, what is your contact point on a topspin forehand or a topspin backhand? Where are the strings facing on contact?
Slightly closed. Flat or closed.
Pretty much flat.
Yeah.
By, give a couple of degrees either way, right? Well, not open, maybe a couple of degrees closed, but pretty much flat. If your racket is 45 degrees closed, doesn't matter how low to high you think you're coming, that ball's going in the net.
Right.
Same principle with backhand slice. So 45-degree open angle, it doesn't matter how much you think you're coming down. If your racket is 45 degrees open, the ball's going to go, it's going to go up to the floodlights. It's going to go sky high and become a lovely slice lob, which is not what you want. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's pretty much straight. It's pretty much, facing forwards on contact. Again, where people go wrong, I think, is watching people slice. If Ben shows us again, on the setup, we have a very open racket face.
So is it your arm that's doing the angle, not the racket?
What do you mean doing the angle, Mike? Do you mean lifting?
So, yeah, because you're saying that it has to be flat.
It's pretty much flat at contact.
But your arm is moving through.
Yeah, so we're starting with an open racket, if Ben shows us again. We're starting with it open. As we come forwards, we're gradually getting more to a point where the racket is straight, pretty much straight for contact. It is slightly open, but it's pretty much straight. And then after contact, we then open it up again on the finish to lift the ball. Does that make sense? So it's like it's open, 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 coming more closed to a pretty much flat contact, and then it opens up again on the finish. So it's almost like a open, flat, open type thing. Now you don't want to overthink that and try and force it and manipulate it, because then it will all go south. But you need to be aware of that. And if your slices keep going up in the air, or you're getting a lot of backspin and not much depth, not much substance to the shot, no power or depth, then I'm pretty sure that's the reason why that will be happening. So it's a balance between getting power and depth comes from obviously the flatter contact point, and then obviously your height and your backspin, your slice comes from that open racket face, and it's just finding the right balance.
Sorry, Rupert, when you say open racket, you mean looking to the ceiling?
Correct, yeah, pointing up. Open is pointing up, closed pointing down, obviously flat pointing forward. So same.
Flat is flat ahead.
It's pretty much pointing forwards at contact. So when we contact the ball, we're pretty much pointing forwards. It's just slightly open.
And you call that, what angle is this, the flat one?
What do I call that? What do you call that, Ben? I don't even know what I call that.
When you say it's flat, when
Not
you say...
open. Yeah, pointing forwards, Raquel. So it's
because I don't understand when you talk about angles. I'm confused.
No, it's a really good question. It's square to the court, isn't it? So open pointing up, closed pointing down. That's square to the court, isn't it? But yeah, Ben, do you obviously agree with that? But in terms of, I think people going wrong, it's one of the areas I see an awful lot is when it goes sky high, or it just doesn't have the pace people want. Then
we often see sort of the one where it's sort of hit like that.
Yeah.
It stays open all the way, and it just goes lots of spin, but doesn't go forwards.
Yeah. And I can say that comes. It's a feel thing, and it comes from experience. Because like I say, you don't want to force it. You don't want to be. I don't want you to go away and think, right, open, 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 turn, open, because it just won't work. It's very, very subtle. It's very gradual. And it's something that over time, as long as you're conscious of that and aware of it, then you can work on and improve. But it's more, if your issue with a backhand slice is that you're doing it but you're getting a lot of spin, too much height and not enough power, that's probably the reason why. So just try and come through the back of the ball a bit thicker, try and get a thicker contact through the back of the ball rather than such a thin sort of slicing contact, if that makes sense. But yeah, really it was just that and locking the wrist. I mean, most of the other stuff I covered with my guys in my little breakaway room, because with a one-handed backhand, like I said, there's a lot of, why are you laughing? Because it's not recorded. Right, it was delivered in such a way they've remembered it. So we spoke about rotating more on the way back and holding the rotation on the way forwards. We spoke about the separation of the arms. We spoke about the importance of the non-racket, your non-dominant hand on the setup. And hopefully, from what Ben said there and what I've added in, you can see that there are a lot of similarities between the two, so especially in the setup phase. So from that point of view, they do go hand in hand more so than any other two shots, really. But yeah, are there any questions on anything we've said on the slice there?
Can I just ask one question? Sorry.
Yeah.
The grip. I don't know, Ben, can you just repeat what you said on the grip at the beginning? Because sorry, it sort of didn't quite. We can't quite remember what you said. So
Okay, so with to find the chopper grip, there was sort of two ways sort of described to find it. Like the one was with the V of your hand sliding down the racket will get you pretty much ground sort of chopper grip. The other one, put it on your right hand, you put it under your left arm, and you sort of then sort of bring your arm round, take it. That will often sort of get you in sort of chopper grip, possibly like a slightly stronger chopper grip is that one. And then just knowing what the right grip is. So again, like the two parts of your hand, so the knuckle pad here, so the knuckle here and the base pad there. So these two parts of your hand go on the flat, not the top bit of your frame if it was up or down, but it's just the first angle to the side. It's not the side bit, the angled bit. And you get both of those sort of lined up on the grip there. And then that will be the sort of the chopper grip. And like I said before, like sometimes you see coaches sort of refer to like the knuckle. So yeah, technically the knuckle's in the right place. But if you imagine if I put a pin through my knuckle, I could still move my hand to different parts of the racket. And then that whole new grip would then sort of change the dynamics of what my hand can do. So the base pad is just as important as sometimes just by making that small change, people can actually feel how the dexterity changes in your movement. So that, yeah, that's very, very important. One thing I'll sort of add for you guys around the slice is almost sort of like problem solving skills. So let's say like common sort of times, like it's going too high. So if it's going too high, that often means that either like what we talked about before, the angle's too much, or we're too pronounced with our sort of our sort of shape. So I often sort of describe like the slice as like a U. So like rather than sort of being a big scoop of a U, it's more of a shallow U as it's sort of coming through. The other one sort of being in terms of, think of it like showing more strings to the ball. So that's what we sort of talked about before, but sometimes having a visual in our mind can like help sort of change it. So if it keeps going up, I just imagine that I'm showing more strings on impact. And that's essentially doing exactly what we said about squaring up the racket, but it's just sometimes our mind just understands that a little bit more, and it makes it a bit easier to get to that point. If we're hitting too flat, often what that means is we're not starting high enough. We're just coming straight through as we hit. So we've got to make sure we're getting high enough so we're coming down on it to make the slice as we're playing the shot. But then it's just it's playing around with it, guys, with the slice. And like when you've got some of the core principles, and then you're starting to learn, and like a feel is a very important sort of part of this. It's like feel what it's like, and then seeing the effect and what feel creates what outcome. Essentially, that's why a lot of club players who've never had lessons get to a certain point with their slice backhand, because they've just developed from trial and error and feeling it. They might be sort of like some areas there it sort of comes unstuck, but they get those sort of bits sort of in place. Whereas like, obviously like the good foundation parts in place and with the feel and sort of the understanding, then it sort of helps us sort of develop a nice slice backhand. So tactically speaking, guys, on that backhand, one-handed top spin or flat or slice or double-handed, which out of attack, rally, defend, which is the one we're going to do least? We're going to be defending least, rallying least, or attacking least with the backhand? Oh, I've got them stumped.
Attacking, I would have thought.
Probably attacking.
Yeah.
Attacking. If we actually look at it in like percentage terms of when to actually attack with a backhand, we're talking in like 1-2%. Even with sort of like our top sort of like team level sort of players, they're not attacking that often with a backhand. It's more about like containing, rallying well, and for me, and it's defining what success is. A successful rally shot, obviously, it's inconsistently, and it's not easy to attack by our opponents. So if I'm doing that, if I've given you a shot that's not easy to attack and you choose to attack it, it's your choice, but your success rate's not going to be as high as if like, if I'm sort of just, I'm pushing it back in, but it's then easy for you to then come round and attack. It's not a successful rally shot. If you can make it a successful rally shot, you're not leaving yourself vulnerable, you're being consistent, and then we can use our forehands to do the damage. And to be fair, that tactic will serve you very well across all levels. And obviously, the better you get, if your rally backhand's better, you can play reasonably high-level tennis without even hitting an attacking shot. Obviously, the general quality is better, but the intent and the mindset is similar with it. We got anything else, Roops? Or I think we sort of covered. I know I've covered everything I wanted to do on my sort of double-handed. Got it recorded and ready to roll out.
Yeah.
I think, unless there are any questions, I mean, I think annoyingly that was probably one of the best online sessions I've done. Well, great questions, and we did really well, but you know, we'll never see it again. So hopefully everyone's sort of questions were answered. Is there anything anyone's got on anything we spoke about tonight, or no? Nothing. Look at that. That's good.
It's good. Thank you.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Brilliant. Very useful.
So what's next week? Wait, what's next week, Rupert? Are we going for the serve or the volley next week?
Going for recording the session next week. Can't debate it.
Well, we'll let you know anyway. You'll get a double-handed backhand video coming through, and
So we will also record the main things we covered on the one on the backhand. Don't worry.
Brilliant.
We'll hopefully have someone on Saturday so we can get that recorded. Okay.
Very good.
Thanks very much. Thank you. Thanks. Bye.
Cheers, guys.
Bye.
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 Thank you.